Guys, episode 10 of Grotesquerie. We made it to the season or series finale, perhaps. I mean, who knows? Maybe we could get a season 2. Anyway, let's just get right up into it. Okay, so Lois starts out in her car, driving, crying. I'm assuming from after killing Justin. She goes home to find Marshall. Also, guess who else is there? It's Sexy Red, who has the nerve to be making some Cincinnati chili and lavender lemonade. Please, please, girl. Girl, Lois is just as confused as me. Marshall tells Lois that there's so much worth holding on to, like a foundation or a history. He thinks Merritt still needs them both and suggests living together? Bitch, what? And of course, Sexy Red freaky ass is on board. Marshall says there must be new paradigms and that he loves Lois. Guys, what is happening? Lois, much like me, believes she's still dreaming. Lois says the divorce will be final and that she just wants to be at peace. She tells his ass he needs to take accountability and to just go. Marshall and Sexy Red leave, and as they're driving, Sexy Red goes off, saying that she doesn't know how she ended up in this town and that she hates Marshall a little. She calls him out for cheating on her with several other women. He says it doesn't matter. Sexy Red knew that Lois would turn down his offer and just wanted to see him humiliated. There's this eerie music playing which is sending me. What is happening? Sexy Red gives his ass till the end of the week and then she wants him gone. She has had enough. The next day we see Marshall giving a lecture. A very pretty, excited student is cheesing so hard as she watches him. A mistress much? Detective Megan and Chief Hanover then enters the room. Marshall looks nervous. He dismisses the class to speak with him. They tell him that one of his students filed a very serious charge against him. Sexual assault. It was the pretty girl who was just cheesing at him, and I'm like, girl, damn, do you want to press charges or not? Marshall assures them that it was consensual, but they locked his ass up. He was released the next day, and we see him packing his shit up to leave Sexy Red's place. He then wakes up in a hospital bed with Sexy Red at his bedside. She says that she found him, and apparently he's been popping pills, so they pumped his stomach. She thinks he wanted to commit suicide. She then lets him know that she knows about the arrest and that nothing has changed between them. I'm so confused because she was just putting his ass out. She says that Merritt is there and Marshall doesn't want to see her. Sexy Red calls him selfish and lets his ass know that he's still got to get up out of her house. Girl, make up your mind. Merritt comes in and tells him that he makes it really hard for her to want to stick around, but she does it because she loves him. She tells him that she needs him and even mentions her crazy mother. We see Marshall the next day. He's at Sexy Red's. He gets a text from someone saying that they're picking him up and that it will change his life like it changed theirs. He was wondering, like I was, who was texting him. They tell him to come outside. He goes outside to find a truck and it is Eddie. He wants to take him to a men's group. Bitch, Marshall asked exactly what I was wondering, which was what happened to Eddie's mullet. So I'm sorry, y'all. Oh my God. Eddie said he had to get rid of that thing. I am literally in tears. Oh my God. Eddie asks Marshall if he's angry. He says that his own anger is his salvation. What, Eddie? They pull up to this weird looking ass building. They go inside and bitch, Dr. Smith is there. He's leading this men's group. Gay? Girl, Dr. Smith told Marshall that he'll get used to the mustiness of the space. What? Eddie then took Marshall to this musty ass men's group. Girl, I am done. He wants to get to know Marshall. It's called the Mexicali Men's Club, where they plan to complete the circle of truths. They introduce some very weird sounding pronouns to Marshall. Guys, we then see Dr. Charles's fine ass come in the door, and I'm realizing that this is the last episode that I'll get to see him. Damn, he's so fine. Officer Jack's punk ass is there too? This is definitely a dream. Marshall speaks on men's convictions with minimal evidence evidence. He's saying that strong men are being perceived as dangerous, but thinks that weak men are far more dangerous. Eddie then reminisces about working at Cinnabon and how the women laughed at him when he was just trying to make a living. And honestly, girl, if Eddie was working at Cinnabon in real life, no one's gonna see him and laugh. We're all just gonna come back for more of, well, his Cinnabons. Eddie asks, how does Marshall move forward after being Me Too'd as someone else enters the room? It's Dr. Whitcomb wearing a tux? Marshall speaks on the suicide rate of men being higher than women and that he recently attempted suicide. Dr. Smith then speaks on hierarchy. A lot of the men there feel like they're living in a horror movie. Marshall wants to find and slaughter the boogeyman. We then see Merritt at the hospital with Dr. Whitcomb. He asks how Merritt is, considering both of her parents are in extreme crisis. Merritt wants him to check on Lois. He checks on Lois, who thinks she's dead. She thinks that she never woke up from the coma. Dr. Whitcomb assures her that she's alive. Lois references the invite from Marshall and Sexy Red to live together, but she remembers them being all up in her face romantically, not like we witnessed it where they were sitting across the table from her. She then says that Dr. Charles was having orgies in her room. When she confronted Dr. Charles, he said, "Surely you don't believe that?" And Lois responded, "Yes, I fucking do." She implies that Dr. Charles raped a girl and got her pregnant. Dr. Charles told her, "Fuck you," and that he saved her life and calls her insufferable. He sides with Marshall for wanting her to die and calls her a massive fucking bitch. God, Dr. Charles. Lois tells Whitcomb that she somehow created the hell she's in. She then confesses to killing Justin. She was planning to cover it up as she left to get supplies, but decided that it was self-defense. When she went back to the hotel room, Megan was gone as well as Justin's body, and the room was completely clear of blood. She says she followed Megan, where she then saw her talking with Glorious McCall. Remember her? She thinks Glorious assisted Megan in the cleanup. She confronts Megan at the station. She says that she killed Justin and that Megan moved the body without saying anything. Megan doesn't know what Lois is talking about, guys. I am Confucius. Megan says that she only met with Glorious to help her with something unrelated. Lois asks where Justin is, and Megan says that she hasn't seen him in weeks. She tells Lois that she needs help. Lois calls Whitcomb a clever demon. She then sees a camcorder filming her. She then mentions the centerpiece to this jacked up jigsaw puzzle, which is the family found at the house. She implies, like I did in my last review, that there is a killer copying her dreams. Also, like my last review, she blames Whitcomb, who has access to her files. He says that hundreds of people have access to her files. He then implies that it was her who committed the crimes, that she is Grotesquerie. She tells him to explain all the religious imagery, and he says that she's convinced herself that she's the last good person in the world. Lois has had enough and goes back to her room, where we see her walk by the Catholic Guardian like Sister Megan Thee Stallion was the editor of in her dream. That night we see Megan arrive. She goes to Lois's padded room crying. She lays on Lois's lap weeping. It's as if Lois knows why she's there. The next morning we see them both in the hallway. This time Lois is in her regular wig and clothes. Megan refers to a new crime scene, saying that it's bigger than the family scene. She says that they both know some of the people who've been slaughtered. Lois says she is done because none of it is real. Megan assures her that she's not dead. She admits to Lois killing Justin and calling Glorious McCall for help. She said that she just had to protect herself from her own mistake. They go to the crime scene, similar to the Last Supper crime scene in Lois's dream. Dr. Charles's fine ass is up on a cross. Lois speaks on how he literally touched her heart. Charles is surrounded by other dead bodies who crucified him, including the girl that pressed charges against Marshall. At this point, I really am thinking it's Lois who did this. Officer Jack's punk ass shows up as Lois says she's gonna help them solve the case and that she'll be back in an hour. She walks out and bitch, it was Lois, right? Dr. Whitcomb was right, saying that she's Grotesquerie, that she recreated her own dreams. Some of you guys said it early on that it was Lois who was in fact grotesquerie, and I think you guys are right. Wow. So a lot of it was a dream, and then Lois wakes up and recreates her dream. Also, Marshall was in a coma. I mean, just crazy, and we got to see some of his dreams. So this was wild, and I need to just go back and unpack a lot of it and just think about what the fuck I just watched. This is the final episode of Grotesquerie, guys. It has been a great ride. I don't know. Maybe we could get a season 2. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. Happy Halloween.